All right, folks, Jeremy Hazel here from 7th Season Studios. This week's tutorial comes to us from a Facebook member who saw an Adobe Illustrator tutorial on artistic text. And she said, can Affinity Designer do artistic text? And the short answer is absolutely. Going through Chicago Airport this week, I saw this particular text on one of those Team USA ads, and I thought this might be a fun one. So let's go ahead and get into it and do some text based on this design. All right, folks, roll the credits and let's get started. All right, folks, so the very first thing you're going to want to do, let's go in and make a new document. We're going to make it 1920 by 1080, and because I might want to print this someday, I'm going to make the DPI 300 to make sure that I'm set up for success. Go ahead and hit OK. Now we've got this. All right, now let's go ahead and start with the artistic text tool, and let's go ahead and drag out the letter F, let's say. All right. Now, I'm using an Arial font. That way it's something that everybody has. And now we want to set our workspace up for success. So we're going to come over to swatches, and we're going to go over and we're going to import a palette. Now, because I like you guys, we went through and created a document palette right here that you can import that has all the colors that we're going to use in this tutorial. So that's in the downloads. Now, the very first thing we're going to do, we're going to go and use this blue gradient to gradiate our F. Now, the F, now you see the gradient is running left to right. That's not desirable. We want it running up and down. So to do that, we're going to grab the fill tool, and we're just going to change the way the gradient moves. All right, cool. Now, before we go too much further here, let's place our reference inside of our workspace, just so we know kind of what we're doing. I'm not going to copy this verbatim and do the 3D kind of turn on it and that kind of thing. That's a lot of work on this one. This is all about getting the basic text of the white with the red and the gradient. So the very next thing we're going to do now, we go back to make sure our move tool is selected, select the F, and now we're going to create a stroke color. The stroke color is going to be gray. So let's go ahead and turn on the gray. Now I know what you're saying there, Jeremy. Why didn't the stroke change? Because we need to go to the stroke panel and we need to make sure that we turn it on. So let's go ahead and increase the width of that stroke. All right, perfect. Now let's detach or undock our stroke panel. We're going to be using this a lot in this tutorial. So there's a couple things I don't like here. The first thing is, you see all the blue that's consumed? We're going to go ahead and click on to draw behind fill. That is what makes this possible, folks. Make sure you do that. And the other thing, you see where this is round here? We want to miter join. Now watch what happens when we click this. Ta-da! We now have square miters. All right, perfect. Now I'm going to make this 8.0. All right, so let's recap. I have the gradient fill. I have a gray stroke. Now, let's go over to our layers panel here. You see that this is a text layer. We want to select the layer, and now come over here, right click, and this is what makes the magic, folks. In order to affect this change at all, you're going to have to convert it over to a curve. Now, what is this going to do? You won't be able to edit the text anymore. So we're going to convert it over to a curve. Now let's look at what just happened to our layers panel. You see this F now became a curve? This means it's no longer a text layer, but everything you can do with a curve, you can now do with this shape. Now, once this layer is selected, I want to show you something. You see we have a stroke on it? This is the method we're going to use about 6 times. Go to layer, and then expand the stroke. Now watch the layers panel. Ta-da! A new layer has been created. Now just to show you what it's doing, let's turn off the F. Notice what it did. It just took the gray stroke and it created a shape, a vector shape. So you now have a blue stroke. Where did the stroke go? It disappeared, right? There's no stroke any longer on that. All right, so when we do that part, you're going to now go over here And now you see the curve has a fill, but it doesn't have a stroke. Now you've got to add a stroke. To do that, we're going to add a red stroke. Now, I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to make this a 15-point stroke. And we're going to make it red. And now, what just happened here? Why did the gray get consumed? We did not click on the draw behind fill. This is critical to the illusion, folks. Always draw behind the fill, and then always go with the miter join. Now we have a good, solid red background. All right. Now, what are we going to do now? What's the very next step? We're going to do the exact same thing we did before. Go to Layer, expand the stroke. So we're going to expand it. And now you'll see what just happened. We now have a third layer. Whole different jam, folks. Now, what do you think we're going to do now? We're going to come up. We're going to click on the color. We're going to create a stroke. And we're going to make this a 10-point stroke this time. We're going to miter it. And we're going to draw behind. All right, perfect. Now, what do you think the last step's going to be? Layer, expand, stroke. One more time. All right. Now what we're going to do is we're going to start manipulating the space, okay? Now, how do we get this 3D effect? Let's make sure that this is selected, the lower curve, and let's just drop this in the downward direction. And now let's move it over. Beautiful. Just like that. This expanding the stroke is key. You need to have all of this. All right. Now, we went one too far here. Go up. All right. Perfect. Now, we're going to take this layer, the gray layer, and we're going to do the same thing. Okay. Go over. And we're going down. All right. Perfect. All right. Now, we have a little bit of differentiation here. We're going to fix that. Let's go up to this curve. And now, let's make sure that we have this item selected. And now, this is key now. Take the draw behind fill off. Okay, this illusion won't work if not. Change your stroke color to white. And now crank that bad boy down. All right, what you're doing, you see the illusion you're kind of pulling off there? All right, perfect. All right, so you've got a little bit of white, you've got a little bit of gray, and you've got this nice 3D effect. Now, let's go ahead and clean it up just a little bit. Let's zoom in and make sure that we're in good shape. See here, I go over to here, make sure that's selected, and I would just want to line that up just a little bit better. And then I come over here, make sure my lower layer is selected, line that up just a little bit better. And I come over here, I make sure we're selected, and I line that one up just a little bit better. All right, this gives it that nice dark red border. We've got a nice white border here, and we've got a nice gray border here. All right, cool. So each one of these letters has 4 different layers, and the trick to them all, folks, is expanding the stroke once you've got it. All right, now let's finish up the illusion here because it's not done. Let's go to this lower curves layer, the dark red layer, and let's bring out our effect. Let's put an outer shadow on it, and let's crank up the radius. Let's crank up the opacity. Let's crank up the offset, and then let's adjust the angle. I'm going to go to 225. There we go. All right. And now this white grayish area wants to sit on top of the red, so we need to do the exact same thing here with that. I want to make that pretty big here. Okay. And let's crank up the offset a little bit and move that over also to 225. All right, folks, that'll do it. So we have a nice artistic F that can be used. And now, just to clean it up, we can go through, select all of our layers, right-click, and group them in. And we can rename this F. So we can do the exact same thing now with every other letter of the alphabet to make whatever word we're looking for. All right, folks, that's a little bit on artistic text. And the whole trick to making it work, folks, if you were to take a couple things away, make sure that you convert the text over to a curve and then go in, expand the strokes, but always make sure draw behind fill is checked. And to get that nice, clean, crisp edge, make sure you've got a miter joint selected. All right, folks, that's a little bit on artistic text. Hope you got something out of it. Love to see what you do. If you like the video, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. If you want to see more videos on artistic text, hit us up. We do a separate one every week, so I'd love to do what adds value to you. All right, folks, we'll see you in the next lesson.